folks, hope you're okay. Welcome to this week's video looking at the squat pattern and primarily the barbell back squat. Now before I get into the video, I want to just say that there are many different variations you can do building up to a back squat. A back squat can be quite an advanced move for a lot of people, so potentially look at body weight, kettlebell or dumbbell goblet squats, maybe a landmine squat or a front squat, and then leading into a back squat, probably the most advanced position, just down to where the loading of the weight is. So you may find it more comfortable with the body weight or goblet squat with dumbbell or the kettlebell before progressing it up to the barbell back squat. So we are going to head over to the gym and I'm going to start talking through the movement and kind of what I like to look at and the common areas that people need to focus on so they don't get the move wrong and potentially don't injure themselves. So we'll head over to the gym and I will add this voiceover over the video. What I always like to start with is my cardio. I'll hit maybe 5 to 10 minutes on the cross trainer or the treadmill or the bike for lower body days. I'll get my foam rolling done. I'll make sure that I'm nice and warm, probably like an RP of 7 to 7.5 at the end of my cardio. I'll foam roll my calves, my quads, my IT bands, my adductors, my hamstrings, my glutes, and I'll always try and hit my back as well, just try and loosen off my thoracic spine. Something that I need to be working on because my thoracic spine is actually quite tight, but I'll always try and tell people to work these areas so they can loosen off their back. I'll always make sure I do some hip swings or some leg swings. So I will look at the front of the leg, which is targeting very much the hip flexors and my hamstrings. I'll hit both sides, maybe 10 reps on each side, and I'll do some side to side hitting more the glutes and the adductors as well. When I go into my warm-up sets, I will always make sure I'm setting everything up correctly. So I'm looking at my feet to be hit with, I'm taking the bar nice and strong across the back. I've got the feet hit with, back nice and tight in a nice strong T position. I'll perform sets of 8, depending on what I'm working on that day. I'll be nice in control, focusing on form, getting a pause at the bottom, really try and get everything firing up, which is what we need to do before you go into your working sets. The bar typically should travel down the centre of the foot, and that's kind of like a straight parallel line or an imaginary line from the bar down to the feet, and that's the path that the bar should take. The hips should go below the knees, okay? So as you get down to below, oftentimes people will say that it needs to be around 90-degree angle. It's far enough between the hip joint and the knee joint. I think in the powerlifting world it needs to go below the knee joint, the hip does. So there's a bit of controversy there, but I always recommend people go to as depth as they can with mobility in place. So below the knee joint is optimal. Anything deeper than that, you start to get the butt wink that we want to try and avoid, which may just put a lot of stress more towards the lower back. But we are looking at getting as deep as possible so the glutes, the hamstrings and the quads can fire optimally, effectively. So the big thing that we've got to look for here is when we've got the weight on our back, we are staying nice and tight throughout our kind of T-spine, through our hips. We want to avoid shifting as much as possible from side to side. I always recommend taking a big deep breath in when we are at the top of the movement, holding the stomach and bracing the core as we go down. That way that the hips are going to stay stable, the shoulders are going to stay nice and stable, and we're going to be able to really focus on pressing through the legs as opposed to trying to lift it with the back. And it's just going to make proper sense really to be able to keep the control of the weight rather than trying to rush through the movement. So as you can see from the footage here, I am really trying to focus on keeping the form. This was kind of 3 sets of 8 at 120 kilos. It was about an RP of 7.5. It's not maximum loads for kind of 1 rep max or anything, but it's just really trying to focus on the hypertrophy side of things, pushing on up nice and straight. You can see that the bar is travelling down and straight back up again as I'm pushing. I'm really trying to focus on my form, staying nice and tight as I'm driving up. There should always be a slight lean forward at the top of the movement because that's just your body holding the weight. A lot of times people will ego lift and be very aggressive with their movements and actually don't control the weight. They can kind of have all the gear but no idea and just kind of rush through the movements very quickly. Be very aggressive with the weight and actually have no kind of time and attention or control of the movement or the weight. And so 3 common things that I encounter is the first one is always knee valgus. So knee valgus simply means the knees caving in, and this tends to be down to an insufficiency in the glute activation and the hamstrings being able to control the movement as well, so the quads tend to take over. The second movement I always tend to see is hitting inadequate depth and not going low enough, so people will tend to squat down maybe 2/3 of the way and not get the full potential range of the motion, and that's just something people need to address. And then the final one is kind of like a good morning position that people will go into, where they lower down but they don't get a sufficient knee flexion, and they end up with kind of a position where their hips are rising up before their before their back and their quads, and all of a sudden you've got this position that just doesn't look healthy at all at the top of the movement. So I hope this video helps. I hope you've got some information from this, and it's really been able to kind of hone in on what to be looking for and how to perform the squat, and just making sure that you've got an understanding of how to then go to the gym and perform that, what to be looking out for. By all means, use the mirrors. If you've got any questions off the back of this video, please do go ahead and give me a shout. You can post your comments and questions down below. Send them over to me via email. I'm happy to answer them and help out. So thank you very much for checking this video out. Please do go ahead and give it a like. Share the content so more people can see it. Subscribe to the channel so we can get more information out. If you've got any kind of exercise or anything that you want to know on, just give me a shout and I'm happy to answer them. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace.